Hey guys, Vince Luca here, and I got a copy of Age of Mythology Retold, which is an RTS. And to be honest, I haven't played a lot of these. I play mostly on console, and I kind of find these games really hard to play on console. But this one drew me in, and it's actually pretty straightforward, pretty easy to play with a controller. You basically have these wheels that you can use instead of a keyboard and mouse, and it works out pretty well. The game is divided in chapters, and it tells you basically what you need to do: gather wood, food at first, and every chapter gets harder and harder and more strategic as you play through them. They'll add more things like different buildings, docks. You have naval missions to do. There's a bunch of different missions and chapters to go through, and every time you finish one, you're like, maybe I want to do just one more before going to bed. You get that addiction of creating an army and exploring the map and figuring out what your enemy's up to, maybe sending a scout out on horse. It's really fun to decide what you want to do with your play style. You could be one of those players that just builds a giant city and evolves into age 2 and 3 and 4. And every time you advance into a different age, you get to choose one of the minor gods. And these minor gods have special abilities. They have different myth units and technologies. So it kind of changes how you're going to play, what kind of units you're going to have for the final big war that happens at the end of most chapters, and different technologies that you can have for your different types of units. So you have to choose wisely every time you jump into a second or third age. And as your village or town or city gets bigger and bigger, you can actually tell each villager what to do as a group instead of like micromanaging them. So you can decide, okay, I want, stuff for the second age, so gold, wood, and a lot of food. Or maybe I want it balanced, I want a bit of everything. So you decide here how you want it to play out, and you don't have to micromanage. Once you've clicked on one of these, the villagers are going to do that, and you could change it on the fly whenever you want. So if you see that you're missing a lot of gold, you could tell the whole town to just focus on getting gold. So that's pretty interesting. You don't have to micromanage that as well as the buildings and the war and the armies and everything like that. So that's cool. So the top tells you how much food, wood, gold, even how many houses you have for your different units, because eventually you'll have more units than houses, and then you can't produce anymore. If your city's too big, you could also find a special building. So you can go into this wheel, find a different building that you probably don't remember where you placed. Right now I'm building an academy so that I can have some soldiers, and I'm also going to build an archery range so that I can have some ranged units. And once that's built, I could start building my army. Once you think you have a big enough army, you can send them out to attack your neighboring enemy. So in this case, I have a lure here. This lure is a special ability I got from one of the minor gods. It basically brings animals closer to your base. So I'm going to put it somewhere, maybe where there's a bunch of workers right over here. So I'll get more food from that. Meanwhile, I got some boats here that I built at the port, attacking over here from the sea. And hopefully this is going to be enough to destroy the base and finish the mission. So every chapter is really small. It's like a little mini mission that you got to do. But the whole fun of it is how you're getting it done. Basically, how you're creating your town, your city. Are you going to go full out naval? Are you going to go with just an army without any ships? And between every chapter, there's always a cutscene that explains what happened at the end of the battle. And it also brings you to another cutscene that eventually goes into the start of the next chapter, which basically makes you play even more. So it's one of those games that's hard to put down. Actually, I was having a lot of fun with this. The last RTS I've played, believe it or not, is probably like Sid Meier's Civilization on like Xbox 360 or something like that. Like I said, I'm a console player and it's really hard for me to get into these type of games, but this one really captured me. It's not as complicated as well. You could also make groups of different armies. So here I'm trying to figure out how many different units I want to put in a group, and then I could just control them. So I have just these 6 guys here. If I want everybody in a group, I just select them all. I'm just gonna kill these scouts here and put them into a group here. So now I have a group of 16. So whenever I want, I could just click on them and automatically move them. There might also be things on the map like these boats here, or buildings that are friendlies, but you can't use them. At the start, usually my strategy is to build houses so that I have enough room to grow the village and the town. So I like to build houses and then build like storehouses for the resources, for example wood and gold, so that the villagers don't have to walk too far to put it into your pool of materials that you need to build your army and your units and stuff. So for example, here I clicked on a bunch of villagers and I told them to cut some wood, and they're there just chopping wood. Now as you play the game, you also unlock a lot of different like Pegasus or Hydras or Cyclops. You unlock all these different units, which is really cool, mythological units that you get to control. So for example, here I have a Pegasus. It doesn't attack or anything, but it flies, so I can use it to go like explore the map. I really like that you can zoom in really close and upgrade your buildings and see what people are doing, your villagers and stuff like that. So even during a fight or a huge battle, you can zoom in and see all the different details of what's happening, which is really cool. So now here I'm using my Pegasus to just fly around, and got to this like little statue here. So exploring the map is actually really fun, and for you completionists out there and you want to make everything that's Fog of War actually visible, it's not that big of a map, which is really cool. So I'm gonna build some Cyclops here to strengthen my army. And you can also upgrade like flaming arrows or flaming swords. You have all these different upgrades that you can use or research depending on the minor god that you chose when you went up to the 2nd and 3rd and 4th era, which is really fun. So every time you play a chapter, even if you replay the same chapter, and choosing a different god changes the whole strategy. Every building has a little upgrade as well that you can do, and here you can see I have 2 ports creating a bunch of boats. So I wanted to like make a huge naval fleet, so I'm gonna put like 15 boats in the queue here and see where I can bring these boats to. And I got my army here, so I'm gonna show you a quick, let's say a quick final battle. What I would do, basically take my 48 army, which are kind of spread out throughout the town a little bit there. So I'm gonna just make them all gather up in here, and you can see how close I am to the enemy. Like I said, these maps are tiny. So I'm gonna take all my boats here, form a group, so if ever I need to command them, and I'm gonna come and attack over here. There's a port here, an enemy port, super close to my actual village. I got 3 Cyclops there, so I'm gonna take my army here, and I'm gonna tell them to come and attack this wall. Meanwhile, I got my navy coming from the side here, and they're gonna start shooting automatically as soon as there's a battle. You don't have to do nothing whatsoever. They'll do all the fighting for you. The AI is really good in this game. I haven't had a problem with anybody just doing something that doesn't make any sense. So they attack what they need to attack. Whatever is dangerous first, they'll attack first. When they see that there's not that many units left, they'll smash a wall and try to go for buildings. So they're probably gonna come here and surround the middle of the town here. My boats are going at it, attacking the port so that they can't build any more boats. And I'm pretty sure this is going to be the end of this little enemy town here, but probably not the end of the mission, as there's another one up to the north. So now I'm going to take my army. There's a huge giant here. First time I ran into him, I didn't know how powerful he was, so I was kind of scared. So I brought a bunch of people to attack him, but he's doing some really good damage to my guys. You could see it in the front there. A lot of my guys have 50% HP, even lower. So I went back to the north, and my boats are also kind of getting a beating over there. There's a giant as well that's pretty powerful, so I'm gonna take one of my like mythical animals here that you have in the water as well. My boats, I'm gonna put them together and go attack from the seaside all the way at the top here. They have quite a bit to go, but meanwhile I'll keep them busy with my army over here. Try to attack the center of town. I do have a special spell here, pestilence, so I'm gonna do pestilence on the town. I'm gonna curse them as well, just to give them negatives. And meanwhile I'm gonna wait for my boats to finally hopefully get there, and my little mythological animal, which does some pretty good damage to their port. So my army is doing pretty good here. They're actually attacking the town without even destroying the wall first. So I have, I guess, a lot of archers. I got some catapults there, doing some good damage without even needing to destroy the front gate. And once that's destroyed, see, they'll continue. They won't even stop. They'll just go to the next building and try to smash it. So it's the war is pretty automated, so you don't have to like micromanage everything, which is really cool. Seeing the swarm destroying everything is actually really fun as well. I'm playing on standard, so I guess that's like normal difficulty. But if you guys are RTS veterans and you guys know how these games play out and the strategies that you need to do and everything, you could play on like hard, super hard, and like impossible. And I'm assuming completing a chapter on impossible must feel amazing. So I don't know how that works. I don't know if there's a time limit. Do you have to go to like the 5th era and like be super strong and have no more villagers and just an army and then attack? So there's just all these different strategies you can do and level of difficulty. But you can see here the map is like really small. My neighbors are basically my enemy, and yeah, so I'm just building an army here, making sure that I have enough before I go do an attack. And I'm gonna go to the next era and choose my minor god here, giving me new upgrades and special abilities and spells and stuff. So again, I'm going to zoom in here just to show you a little bit close up of the battle. I got some units that can actually like make things fly away from me, which is pretty fun. But yeah, so I can actually tell them to ignore everybody and attack a specific building. I can heal, so I have this ring of restoration. I have a thunderstorm here that I can call. I can bolster the armor of all my units with this spell. So you have all these different spells that have an AoE effect that can be positive or negative, that you can use depending again on the god that you chose when you went up to its 2nd or 3rd era. Now again, here there's a cutscene that's going to lead to another chapter. And some chapters actually start you off with a complete town. Like the whole town is already built for you. Everything's there. You might need a few buildings, but everything is there for you to start right away exploring, grabbing your army, moving them. But I'm going to start here with a few villagers so that they can get more rocks and wood. And there's actually no food. If you look at the top there, I'm not getting any food. So I'm going to tell them make some farms and gather a balanced amount of stuff. So now the villagers are automatically going to go do that. And in this mission, this one was really hard. You had these scouts basically that would come in on horses, attack for a little bit, and if you don't kill them fast enough, they'll run back to Troy and come back with an army. So you got to kill them before they go back. Speaking of Troy, there's a mission that you're basically building the Trojan horse, and once it's built, you basically send it into Troy, and you have this like mini mission where you're controlling a few people in your army, like just the heroes, and you're avoiding guards in the city. And the whole point is to get to the gate to destroy it and let your army in. So you're doing this like stealth mission, which is a cool break from all the strategy and building of cities and towns. And then once you break down the wall, your army comes in and you can go destroy the city of Troy. in the darkness of night. I also had 2 meteor showers that I could have casted right here, but I didn't need to because I guess I'm playing on normal, and I can't wait to replay this game on a difficulty a little bit harder and maybe doing another playthrough. Yeah, it's one of those games that you just want to play again and again and again and figure out how to do it maybe better the next time. There's some missions where there's a bunch of things I forgot to do. There's some optional quests that you can do. If you look on the side there, you see some optional missions that you can complete, and I'm not sure if completing these affects your other chapters, but completionists are going to want to do everything, and maybe choosing a different minor god for that specific chapter just to learn the different technologies and spells that they can give you. So like this one has an ability to give you like a teleporting door that kind of looks like a mini volcano or some sort, and you could basically put your army in there and they'll pop up on the other side. So this is really good if you have like a hill to go around or a wall. You could just go right underneath the wall, just click on the door and they'll all pop out on the other side. So you could do these teleporting doors. There's so many different ways of doing things. There's also this bird that came in at one point during my playthrough. There was something underneath it and my archers were just attacking it, and when it landed there's a bunch of guys that came out from that little tent. So it was basically bringing in people, and if I didn't have a few soldiers inside my city, they would have been here just killing all of my villagers without me even knowing. So eventually I get to have one of those birds as well, and I put an army inside and I flew in, and it was really, really cool. You get these cutscenes also with bad guys, so you get to see what they're thinking and what they're plotting and everything. So that's also pretty cool. And you also get to play as the Egyptians at one point in the game, so I'm just gonna let her explain it to you how that works.
When playing the Egyptians, there are 3 things to remember. First, the Pharaoh is one of your most important units. He can be tasked to empower different buildings in your town. Empowered buildings train military units, research improvements, and attack faster. Laborers, fishing ships, and camel caravans will drop off more resources at empowered buildings. The Pharaoh can also empower foundations, speeding their construction. In combat, your Pharaoh is very strong against myth units. You only have one Pharaoh, so use him well. Second, the Egyptians gain favor by building monuments. 5 different monuments are available, but you can only build one of each. You will gain favor faster with each new one constructed. Each major god provides a unique bonus to your monuments, so place them wisely. Finally, most Egyptian buildings are either free or cost gold. However, they take a long time to construct. Remember that your Pharaoh can empower a foundation to speed this process.
So yeah, not only do you have different strategies, but you also have different ways of playing different armies. So when you're playing as the Egyptians, you have the Pharaoh that can make buildings and units come faster. And type of missions are different as well. So for this mission, the Egyptians were digging up this artifact, and I had to defend basically their village from 3 different entry points of the enemy. So if you look on the map here, you see there's 3 different areas, and on the left side I saw a little red dot here, meaning that there's enemies coming. So here we have these giant beetles that were coming in, destroying the walls super easily. So hopefully my army is going to be enough to defeat these 2 little scarabs. And it seems like I got this path covered. So yeah, I had to defend from 3 different paths. I had another mission where I had to escort this giant sword to a guardian. So eventually I brought the sword to this guardian statue, and putting the sword inside his hands made him come to life and join my army. So now I had this like really powerful Egyptian guardian, and he would swing and just do like so much damage to whatever was in front of him. It was really cool to have that powerful god in my army. Another mission was I had to catch up to the enemy that was bringing a part of a god to their camp. So they are actually pretty slow, and I had to build an army to catch up to them. So I had an army here that I started with. I just took them and tried to catch up to them. My army was obviously faster than that slow moving caravan, and eventually I got to them and brought the caravan into my side, and then had to bring it back. So what happened is my caravan was so slow that they were actually creating units and coming after their caravan. So it was kind of like a tug of war between caravans, and at one point I just I built a bunch of elephant units that were really powerful. I had a phoenix. So yeah, the enemy did not stand a chance against these guys, so my caravan eventually made it back to my town safe and sound, and that was the end of that chapter. You even have missions where you're controlling only one hero and there's no building involved. You're just going through a dungeon, fighting and attacking things, kind of like a mini Diablo version of a mission, which is pretty fun. You do end up eventually down below in the underworld as well, and you gotta try to get yourself out of there by finding the exit. And I have a spell here that's gonna give everybody flaming weapons, so I'm gonna do that, especially if I'm fighting dinosaurs or whatever those things are. Yeah, so I think this is the exit here, so I'm gonna have my army destroy that and get out of hell, basically. So yeah, you do have a variety of missions, like a bunch of different ways of playing. At one point I was the red color instead of blue, not sure why, but that's just what happened. And I'm just gonna tell my guys to do a balanced crafting. These guys, I'm gonna tell them to come and build a little settlement over here. But yeah, I was playing red for some reason. Not sure why that happened. After the Egyptians, I came back and I was playing the reds. But yeah, I don't know, maybe it's random, the color that you're playing as. And speaking of random, I got a random earthquake at one point that was just destroying my town center here, and my villagers were getting a bit of damage. I have seen a tornado at one point, but it didn't hit my village. I just saw it out there just going around, and that was kind of scary. I was just like, please don't come to my town. But yeah, so I eventually built a bunch of boats here to come and attack these guard towers, and hopefully the enemy base over here. They're attacking. I got some squids, giant squids, and the mission was to destroy this amphitheater. So I came in from the boats to avoid the wall, and once I was inside, I was just attacking the amphitheater to complete the mission and move on to the next chapter and puzzle and try to figure that one out. But yeah, I guess you have an idea of what this game is all about, and I'm just gonna go play more of this. I'm loving it. If you're a console player and want to try an RTS, check out Age of Mythology Retold, and make sure to drop a like and a subscribe for my next videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.